The void between stars had never felt so cold. Commander Sarah Chen stared through the reinforced viewport of the UES Nemesis, humanity's most advanced warship and the current bane of the Zeth Imperium. The distant glow of a burning world cast eerie shadows across her face. She didn't flinch. 6 years of warfare had hardened her in ways she never thought possible. "Ma'am, we've received confirmation. The Zeth planetary defense grid is down. Civilian evacuation ships have cleared the engagement zone." Lieutenant Rivera's voice was steady, professional. Like everyone else aboard the Nemesis, he had seen too much to be shaken by another world burning. Sarah nodded without turning. "Proceed with the bombardment, Lieutenant. Standard protocol." "Yes, Commander." Standard protocol. Such a clinical term for what they were about to do. The Nemesis's main cannon would reduce the Zeth military installations to molten slag within minutes. Another victory for humanity. Another world left in ash. It wasn't supposed to be this way. When humanity had first ventured beyond their solar system, they had been welcomed by most of the Galactic Council races. Humans were curiosities, primitive yet surprisingly adaptable, innovative in ways that made the older species uncomfortable but intrigued. Earth had been invited to establish diplomatic relations, to begin the long process of integration into the greater galactic community. Then came First Contact Day. The day the Zeth Imperium revealed its true intentions. Sarah's grip tightened on the railing as the memory surfaced. The Zeth had been planning the attack for decades, meticulously studying human defenses, exploiting the openness and trust that had been humanity's greatest strength. When their war fleets appeared above Earth's major cities, no one had been prepared for the brutality that followed. 2 billion dead in the first wave alone. "Commander, firing sequence initiated. Impact in 30 seconds. Sarah finally turned from the viewport. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. They were the best Earth had to offer. Survivors, fighters, the last hope of a species that had learned the hard way that mercy was not a universal concept. "Admiral Warren is requesting a direct link." "Commander," Communications Officer Patel announced. "Priority Alpha. Put him through to my private terminal." Sarah replied, moving toward her command station. Admiral Warren never made casual calls during an operation. The grizzled face of her superior appeared on the screen, his expression as unreadable as ever. "Commander Chen, I trust the Zeth military outpost on Caldera 7 is being dealt with." "Yes, Admiral. Bombardment commencing now. We expect total neutralization within the hour." "Good." Warren's eyes narrowed slightly. "But that's not why I'm contacting you. We've intercepted something interesting. Something that changes everything." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the ship's carefully regulated temperature. "Sir, we've captured a Zeth diplomatic vessel. High-ranking officials, heading for a secret meeting." Warren's voice dropped lower. "One of them was carrying data crystals. Intelligence is still decrypting most of it, but what they've found so far." He paused, an unusual hesitation for a man known for his directness. "Sarah, they've found evidence that the Zeth attack on Earth wasn't their idea. They were manipulated." The deck seemed to shift beneath Sarah's feet. Manipulated? By whom? That's the million-credit question. The data suggests involvement from one of the elder races, possibly the Dreth Collective. And there's more, references to something called Project Harbinger. Something that has to do with humanity's unusual genetic structure. The main screen of the bridge flashed as the Nemesis' primary weapons discharge, sending blazing streams of energy toward the planet below. No one on the bridge cheered. Those days had ended long ago. "Sir, are you saying the entire war, all of this, was engineered?" Sarah asked, struggling to process the implications. "I'm saying we've been played, Commander. All of us, humans, and Zeth alike. The question is why." Warren's face hardened. "I'm redirecting the Nemesis. New coordinates are being transmitted now. You're to proceed at maximum speed to the Arcturus system." Sarah frowned. "Arcturus? That's deep in Dreth territory. We'd be violating at least 3 treaties. Those treaties were broken the moment Earth was attacked. Besides, we're not going in hot. This is a reconnaissance mission, Commander. We need confirmation before we take this to the Council. What exactly am I looking for, sir? A research facility. If the data is correct, the Dreth have been collecting specimens from both humans and Zeth for decades. And based on the security protocols mentioned, whatever they're doing there, they don't want anyone finding out. Lieutenant Rivera approached, looking uncomfortable at interrupting. Commander, bombardment complete. Zeth installations have been neutralized. Sarah nodded her acknowledgement before turning back to Warren. Admiral, the Nemesis is a warship, not a scout vessel. If we're detected, then you do what you do best, Commander. Warren's expression was grim. But try to remember, we need answers more than we need more dead enemies right now. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. Around her, the bridge crew continued their duties, unaware that their mission had just fundamentally changed. Sarah turned back to the viewport. The glow of destruction was beginning to fade as the planet rotated, fires dying out as they consumed available oxygen. 6 years of retribution, of survival, of becoming the very monsters they had once feared. And now this, the possibility that humanity's greatest tragedy, their transformation into a species of warriors, had been orchestrated from the shadows. Lieutenant Rivera set course for the Arcturus system, maximum speed. Her voice was steady, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. Ma'am, what about our scheduled rendezvous with the fleet at Proxima Centauri? Change of plans. Priority orders from Admiral Warren himself. Sarah settled back into her command chair, feeling the subtle vibration as the Nemesis's engines prepared for the jump to FTL. And Lieutenant, alert Security Chief Costa to prep his teams. Where we're going, we might need to be subtle, but we'll definitely need to be prepared. Yes, Commander. Rivera hesitated. May I ask what we're looking for? Sarah met his gaze, seeing the same wariness and determination that she knew was mirrored in her own eyes. The truth, Lieutenant. After 6 years of hell, we're finally going after the truth. As the Nemesis disappeared into the swirling darkness of hyperspace, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading not just toward unknown space, but toward a revelation that would reshape humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy. They had become the monsters that other species feared, the relentless destroyers, the merciless warriors who left worlds in ash. But if Warren's information was correct, they had been guided to that role, manipulated by ancient hands into becoming weapons. The question now was, weapons for what purpose? And more importantly, what would humanity do when they discovered who had forged them into the galaxy's most feared predators? The answers waited somewhere in the Arcturus system. And the Nemesis, humanity's sword of vengeance, was about to become its seeker of truth. Whether the galaxy was ready for that truth remained to be seen. The journey to Arcturus took 3 days in hyperspace. 3 days for Sarah to brief her command staff on their new mission, to prepare for potential encounters in Dreth space, and to wrestle with her own doubts. The Nemesis slipped through the darkness between stars like a predator, its stealth systems engaged, a ghost ship carrying 400 of humanity's finest. Sarah spent hours in her quarters reviewing the fragmented intelligence that Warren had forwarded. Project Harbinger, genetic compatibility tests, references to awakening dormant potential. None of it made sense yet, but the pieces hinted at something vast and ancient, a plan set in motion long before humans had even looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. A soft chime announced a visitor outside her door. "Enter," she called, not looking up from the datapad. Dr. Eliza Novak stepped inside, the ship's chief medical officer and one of the few people aboard who had known Sarah since before the war. Her hair had gone completely gray in the years since first contact day, a stark contrast to her relatively young face. "You missed your physical," Eliza said without preamble, placing a medical scanner on the desk. "Again." Sarah sighed. I've been busy preparing for the mission. The mission won't matter much if our commander collapses from stim overuse and sleep deprivation. Eliza's tone was professional, but her eyes held the concern of an old friend. You haven't slept properly since we left Caldera 7. Have you, Eve managed? That's not an answer. Eliza picked up the scanner and ran it over Sarah's seated form. Her frown deepened as she read the results. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. Neural activity shows patterns consistent with PTSD. And you've been taking twice the recommended dose of focus enhancers. Sarah finally looked up. Is that your professional assessment, doctor, or are you here as my friend? Both. Eliza sat down across from her. Sarah, what's going on? The crew is talking. This sudden change of course, the secrecy. They're loyal, but they deserve to know what they're flying into. Sarah hesitated. Warren had emphasized discretion, but Eliza was right. The crew needed to understand the stakes. She tapped a command on her desk terminal, activating the room's privacy field. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room, not until I decide otherwise. When Eliza nodded, Sarah continued. We found evidence suggesting the Zeth attack on Earth might have been orchestrated by a third party. The Dreth Collective. Eliza's eyes widened. The Dreth. But they've been neutral throughout the conflict. They even provided humanitarian aid after the New Madrid colony was hit. Apparently their public face and private actions don't align. Sarah stood, stretching muscles stiff from hours hunched over reports. The intelligence suggests they've been studying both humans and Zeth for generations. Project Harbinger seems to involve genetic manipulation, possibly aimed at both species. Till what end? That's what we're going to find out in the Arcturus system. Sarah moved to the viewport, watching the swirling energies of hyperspace. But whatever it is, it was worth sacrificing billions of lives to achieve. Eliza was silent for a long moment. If this is true, it changes everything. Does it? Sarah turned back, her expression hard. Does it bring back the dead? Does it rebuild our cities? Does it erase what we've become to survive? No, Eliza admitted. But it might give meaning to their deaths. And it might prevent more. The ship's intercom interrupted. Commander Chen to the bridge. We're approaching the Arcturus system. Lieutenant Rivera's voice was tense. On my way. Sarah deactivated the privacy field. Brief your medical teams, Doctor. If this goes sideways, we might have casualties. And if it doesn't, Sarah paused at the door. Then we find the truth. And God help whoever's responsible. The bridge was a hive of controlled activity when Sarah arrived. Tactical displays showed the Arcturus system in detail, its ancient red sun, 7 planets, and the scattered asteroid belts that had made it a prime mining location for the Dreth. Report, Sarah ordered, taking her command station. We've dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge, maintaining stealth profile, Rivera answered. Long-range scans show significant activity around the 4th planet. Mining operations, as expected, but also something else. He highlighted a section of the display. There's a structure here, embedded in the planet's northern polar region. It doesn't match any known Dreth architectural patterns in our database. That's our target, Sarah decided. What about Dreth patrols? Security, Chief Costa, a mountain of a man with a deceptively soft voice, stepped forward. 2 patrol cruisers maintaining standard routes. Nothing that suggests they're on alert. If we time our approach with the planet's rotation, we can use its magnetic field to further mask our signature. Make it happen. Sarah studied the mysterious structure on the display. From this distance, it appeared as little more than an anomaly in the sensor readings, but something about it triggered an inexplicable sense of unease. I want a recon team prepped and ready. Chief Costa, you'll lead it. Dr. Novak will accompany you. If this facility involves biological research, we'll need her expertise. Commander, Communications Officer Patel interrupted. I'm detecting unusual transmissions from the facility. They're heavily encrypted, but the pattern, it's not Dreth. In fact, it doesn't match any known species in our database. The bridge fell silent. An unknown communication protocol meant either a new species or technology so secret it had never been encountered before. Can you crack it? Sarah asked. Patel shook her head. Not without getting closer. Our systems would need direct access to their network. Then that's our priority once the recon team is inside. Sarah turned to Costa. Your team needs to locate a terminal or access point and establish a secure link back to the Nemesis. Costa nodded, his dark eyes calculating. Rules of engagement, Commander. The question hung in the air. 6 years ago, Sarah would have emphasized non-lethal approaches, preservation of life at all costs. The woman she had been then seemed like a stranger now. Stealth is priority 1. Avoid contact if possible. She met Costa's gaze steadily. But if discovered, protect yourselves and the mission. We need answers more than we need prisoners. Understood, Commander. As the bridge crew returned to their preparations, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of a precipice. Whatever waited for them on that frozen world had the potential to redefine humanity's understanding of the war that had nearly destroyed them. The Nemesis slipped silently toward the 4th planet, a predator approaching its prey. In the darkness of space, the warship that had become the symbol of humanity's vengeance was about to become the instrument of its revelation. The descent to the planet's surface was eerily silent. Chief Costa led his team of 6 through the swirling snowstorm, their adaptive camouflage rendering them nearly invisible against the frozen landscape. Dr. Novik followed closely, her medical scanner continuously sweeping for biological signatures. Behind them, the stealth shuttle waited, its systems powered down to minimum levels. 200 meters to the facility entrance, Costa whispered through the team comm. Motion sensors detect no external patrols. Sarah watched their progress from the Nemesis, the recon team's helmet feeds displaying on the main bridge screen. Every officer stood at their station, tense and focused. This wasn't a combat mission, but they all knew how quickly that could change. Commander, Rivera's voice was tight. We're detecting energy fluctuations from the facility. Something's powering up. Sarah leaned forward. Costa, be advised, the facility is showing increased activity. Proceed with extreme caution. Understood, came the reply, barely audible over the howling wind. We've reached what appears to be an entrance point. Unusual design, not Dreth standard. The feed showed a massive doorway embedded into the ice cliff, its architecture flowing and organic rather than the rigid geometric patterns favored by the Dreth. Ancient symbols were carved into the frame, weathered by centuries of ice storms. Those markings, Dr. Novik's voice cut in. They're similar to artifacts found in the ruins on Proxima, predating all known civilizations. Can you access the entrance? Sarah asked. Costa gestured to his tech specialist who moved forward with a portable decoder. Working on it now. Security protocols are unusual, almost like their. This specialist jerked back suddenly as the decoder sparked and smoked. It shocked me. But the door, before he could finish, the massive entrance began to slide open on its own, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. Commander, Costa's voice was steady despite the unexpected development. The facility appears to be welcoming us. A chill ran down Sarah's spine that had nothing to do with the planet's frozen surface. Proceed, but be ready to extract at the first sign of trouble. The team moved cautiously into the corridor, weapons ready. The interior was starkly different from the ancient exterior. Sleek, modern technology lined the walls, pulsing with soft blue light. No signs of personnel, Dreth or otherwise. Life signs? Sarah asked. Negative, Dr. Novik responded, studying her scanner. But there's something else. Complex organic compounds in the air, engineered. And the walls. She reached out, stopping just short of touching one of the pulsing sections. They're partially organic, living technology. The team progressed deeper, the corridor widening into a vast chamber filled with suspended cylindrical tanks. Each tank contained a swirling, luminescent fluid, and within that fluid, "Oh my God," Dr. Novak whispered. "Commander, you need to see this." The camera feed panned across the room, revealing dozens of tanks. Inside each one floated a humanoid form, some clearly human, others Zeth, and still others, something in between. "They're hybrids." Dr. Novik's voice shook. "Genetic combinations of human and Zeth DNA. Some appear to be in early developmental stages. Others." She moved to a tank containing what looked like a fully formed adult. Its features a haunting blend of human and Zeth characteristics. "This one could be decades old. Find that terminal," Sarah ordered, her voice tight. "I want to know exactly what Project Harbinger is, and I want to know now." Costa directed two of his team to secure the entrance while the others spread through the chamber, searching for access points. The tech specialist found a console near the center of the room, its display showing streams of unfamiliar code. "I'm establishing a connection to the Nemesis now," he reported, attaching a secure link device to the console. "Strange. The system isn't resisting. It's almost like it was expecting us," Costa finished grimly. On the Nemesis, the bridge's main screen suddenly flickered as data began streaming through the connection. Communications Officer Patul worked frantically at her station. "Massive data transfer incoming, Commander. The encryption it's unraveling on its own, like it wants us to read it." Sarah felt a growing sense of dread. "What does it say?" It's a message. Addressed to." Patel looked up, her face pale. "Addressed to you, Commander. By name." The bridge fell silent. "Put it on screen," Sarah ordered. The data stream resolved into text. "Commander Sarah Chen. Welcome. You have questions. We have been waiting 5,000 years for you to ask them." "What the hell?" Sarah whispered. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Tactical Officer Cheung spun to his console. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Dreth warships, at least 5. No, 7 vessels approaching rapidly. "Commander," Costa's urgent voice came through the comm. "We're detecting movement from the tanks. The subjects, they're waking up." Sarah stood, her mind racing as the situation spiraled out of control. The message still glowed on the screen, taunting her with its impossible knowledge. How could anyone have known she would be here? How could they have been waiting for millennia? "All stations, battle ready," she ordered. "Costa, secure the data and prepare for immediate extraction." As the Nemesis's weapons systems hummed to life, and the recon team scrambled to respond to the awakening hybrids, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they had not discovered this facility by chance. They had been led here, piece by piece, step by step. And whatever waited for them at the end of this revelation was about to change the course of humanity forever. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered as the Nemesis banking hard, its defense systems automatically deploying countermeasures against the approaching Dreth warships. "Lieutenant Rivera, get our people out of there." "The shuttle's extraction point is compromised," Rivera replied, his fingers flying across the tactical display. "Dreth forces have deployed ground teams. They're converging on the facility entrance." Sarah's mind raced. They were trapped between the awakening hybrids inside and Dreth Archon Velith of the Dreth, and a scared Zeth commander whose mandibles clicked with barely restrained rage. Supreme Commander Chen, the Zeth leader began, using her formal title with obvious distaste. I am Fleet Lord Kravzek. My intelligence officers report you have discovered the Dreth deception. You now know they engineered our conflict. I know, Sarah confirmed, studying the Zeth commander carefully. Did you know as well? We learned 3 days ago, Kravzek admitted. Our forces captured a Dreth research vessel. The data we recovered revealed fragments of their Project Harbinger. We came seeking vengeance. As did I. Once, Sarah replied. But vengeance won't matter if those ships reach our worlds. She gestured toward the Devourer vessels, now fully emerged from the spatial anomaly. 5 massive ships moving with unnatural precision. The Zeth commander's compound eyes reflected the tactical display. The prophecies were true then. The Endbringers return. You knew of this too? Sarah asked, surprised. Ancient Zeth texts speak of world eaters who come from beyond. We believe them myths, stories to frighten children. Kravzek's mandibles twitched. We were wrong. Archon Velith spoke next. The predecessors left warnings on 100 worlds. They faced the Devourers before and barely survived. They seeded our 3 species with complementary traits, knowing that someday we would need to unite against their return. The war, Sarah said, understanding dawning. It wasn't just to trigger our genetic potential. It was to force us to evolve our technology, to become better fighters. Yes, Terrace confirmed. Human innovation accelerates under pressure. The Zeth perfect their biological adaptations through conflict. The Dreth accumulate wisdom. Together, in the Harbingers, these traits combine. And what do you propose we do now? Sarah demanded. We've spent 6 years killing each other. You expect us to suddenly join forces. The bridge fell silent as proximity alarms blared. The first of the Devourer ships had launched smaller vessels, hundreds of them, swarming toward the gathered fleets. They're scanning us, Xiang reported. Energy readings suggest weapons charging. Sarah made her decision. Costa, get your team, and the hybrids to the extraction point now. Lieutenant Rivera, coordinate with the Zeth and Dreth fleets. Establish a defensive perimeter. You would fight alongside us? Kravzek asked, his tone mixing disbelief and respect. I don't have the luxury of revenge today, Sarah replied. None of us do. On the surface, Costa's team moved through the facility corridors, now accompanied by 6 awakened hybrids. The security feed showed them reaching the extraction point, just as the first Devourer scout ships entered the atmosphere. Shuttle secure, Costa reported. Hybrids are cooperating. But, Commander, there's something else. They're bringing data cores. They say it contains weapon schematics designed specifically against the Devourers. Sarah nodded. Get them up here now. As the shuttle launched from the surface, the first wave of Devourer scouts engaged the combined fleet. The Nemesis shuddered as its advanced shields absorbed enemy fire. Their weapons are like nothing I've seen, Xiang called out. They're not just destroying ships. They're consuming them, converting matter into energy. That's how they feed, Terrace explained from the surface shuttle. They consume advanced civilizations, their technology, their knowledge, their very essence. The battle erupted across space, desperate and chaotic. Human ingenuity, Zeth biological weapons, and Dreth ancient technology all seemed barely effective against the Devourer scouts. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 allied ships were lost. The extraction shuttle docked with the Nemesis as the battle reached its peak. Costa rushed the hybrids to the bridge, Terrace at their lead, carrying a crystalline data core. This must be integrated with your weapon systems, Terrace insisted, handing the device to Sarah. It contains the predecessor's final legacy, the only weapon they found effective. Sarah hesitated only briefly before passing it to Xiang. Do it. As the tactical officer worked to integrate the alien technology, the battle outside grew more desperate. The main Devourer vessels approached, their massive forms dwarfing even the largest battleships. "Integration complete," Xiang announced. "Weapon systems reconfigured. Target the lead Devourer ship," Sarah ordered. "Fire when ready." The Nemesis's main cannon hummed with new energy, not the familiar destructive force they had used against the Zeth, but something different, more focused. The beam that lanced out wasn't one of destruction but of connection. It struck the lead Devourer ship and established what appeared to be a data link. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded, turning to Terrace. The hybrid smiled, a strangely human expression on its alien face. "We aren't destroying them, Commander. We're awakening them." On screen, the Devourer ships began to change, their dark surfaces shifting, patterns of light emerging from within. "They were like us," Terrace explained quietly. "Another experiment of the predecessors, but one that went wrong. They became hollow, mindless consumers rather than conscious warriors. The weapon isn't a weapon at all. It's a key to restore what was locked away inside them." A's understanding dawned on Sarah's face. Terrace stepped closer, her voice dropping so only the commander could hear. "There's one more truth you need to know, Sarah Chen. The predecessors didn't die out. They became us, all of us. Human, Zeth, Dreth. We are their children, separated to develop different strengths, meant to reunite against this moment." The Devourer ships had stopped attacking. The smaller vessels were returning to their carriers. "They're standing down?" Rivera asked incredulously. "No," Terrace corrected. "They're waking up, remembering who they were meant to be." 3 days later, Sarah stood at the viewport of the Nemesis, watching as representatives from all 3 species gathered aboard a neutral station hastily constructed in orbit around the ice planet. The Devourer ships, or the Awakened, as they now called themselves, hovered nearby, their once threatening forms now pulsing with intricate patterns of light. "Hard to believe a week ago, we were bombarding a Zeth outpost," Dr. Novik said, coming to stand beside her. "And now we're signing peace accords with them." Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the gathered ships. 6 years of war, billions dead, all to prepare us for this moment. Was it worth it? Eliza asked softly. Sarah had no answer. Could anything justify such sacrifice? The loss of Earth's major cities, the colonies reduced to ash, the person she had become, a commander who could order a world burned without flinching. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "But I know what matters now is what we do next." The door to the observation deck slid open, admitting Terrace. The hybrid moved with a strange grace, still alien despite her partially human features. In the days since the confrontation, more hybrids had awakened, each one displaying abilities that combine the strengths of all 3 parent species. "The Awakened have completed their transformation," Terrace announced. "Their ships are reorganizing on a cellular level, reclaiming the consciousness they lost millennia ago." "And what happens when they're fully awake?" Sarah asked. "They remember their purpose, not to consume, but to connect, to bridge the gaps between galaxies, between dimensions." Terrace moved closer to the viewport. The predecessors designed them as explorers, not destroyers. Somewhere, their programming was corrupted. Sarah thought of the war, of humanity's transformation from peaceful explorers to vengeful warriors. Corruption happens easily enough. And correction requires sacrifice, Terrace agreed. Your sacrifice, the Zeth sacrifice, even the Dreth, manipulating from the shadows. They sacrificed their moral standing, their peace of mind. Below them on the planet, teams from all 3 species were already working to transform the hidden facility into a joint research center. The remaining hybrids, over 300 in stasis, would be awakened gradually, integrated into their new shared society. Admiral Warren is sending the Earth Council's approval for the treaty, Lieutenant Rivera reported, entering with a datapad. "They're cautiously optimistic." Sarah almost smiled at the diplomatic understatement. Earth's leaders were reeling from the revelations, as were the Zeth High Command, and even the Dreth Collective. Millennia of manipulation, species engineered for specific traits, a cosmic game played across thousands of years. It was almost too much to comprehend. "Commander," Terrace said, using her military title deliberately, "the Awakened wish to speak with you." "Alone?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Why, meh?" "Because you were the catalyst. The warrior who chose connection over destruction in the final moment." Terrace tilted her head, the gesture oddly bird-like. They recognized that choice as the fulfillment of their own original purpose. An hour later, Sarah stood in a communication chamber aboard the lead awakened vessel. The interior was unlike anything she had ever seen, organic yet mechanical, constantly shifting like a living thing. Before her stood a being that seemed composed of light and shadow, vaguely humanoid, but clearly not of any species she recognized. Sarah Chen. It spoke, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly in her mind. "Last destroyer. First connector. I've destroyed plenty," Sarah replied honestly. "Worlds left in ash. I'm no savior. Purpose isn't determined by past actions, but by future choices." The being's form shifted, becoming momentarily more human. "We have remembered our purpose. Now you must discover yours." "And what is that?" "To lead what comes next. Not humans alone, not Zeth or Dreth, not even the hybrids, but all together." The being gestured, and suddenly the chamber seemed to expand, showing Sarah a vision of stars, countless worlds, possibilities stretching beyond imagination. The war is over. The awakening begins. As Sarah left the awakened ship, returning to the Nemesis, she found herself looking at her vessel differently. Not as humanity's sword of vengeance, but as a ship of exploration once more. The weapons would remain. The galaxy was vast, and not always kind, but their purpose had changed. "Orders, Commander?" Lieutenant Rivera asked as she returned to the bridge. Sarah looked around at her crew, at Eliza, at Costa, at all the faces that had followed her through years of war. They waited, ready for whatever came next. "Set course for Earth," she said. "It's time to go home and rebuild. We have a lot of work to do." As the Nemesis broke orbit, falling into formation alongside Zeth and Dreth vessels, Sarah thought about the worlds they had left in ash. Those worlds could not be restored. The dead could not be brought back. But perhaps their sacrifice had purchased something precious after all. A future where humanity's warships would destroy no more.